At Humoriso, we're not just another HR consultancy. We're a team of dedicated experts wanting to bring your business forward. Our Humoriso Technology Solutions, HTS, are a different kind of HR tech. Give real-time insights without overwhelming managers with too much data. So whether you're a growing startup, an established company, our human resources outsource support, payroll management are all there to help drive your business forward. So check us out and see what Humoriso could do for you today.
Good morning, everyone. How are we doing today? Can you believe it's already Tuesday?
I can't believe it's Tuesday. I can't believe that we've got fresh faces. Did anybody? What's going on?
It's like we beamed down and took it over or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it is a morning show takeover.
A non-hostile takeover.
Yes.
You know, because we've got hearts full of love.
And brought gifts and everything as we came into takeover. So
indeed we did. Well, welcome everyone to the HR Morning Show. As you know, it's the number one spot for all things HR all morning. We are part of Purple Acorn. If you haven't heard of us, you're missing out. Check out purpleacornnetwork.com. Follow us on LinkedIn. I call it Slinkton sometimes because that's what I do when I'm going to go get the goss. We are also on YouTube. We have a whole podcast network. We are on Here the Morning Show every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Central, 7 a.m. Pacific. So sorry to you on the West Coast, but here on the Beast Coast, this is a fine time to start. We are trying to get our follows up. I think that we are aiming to cross that 2,000 threshold on LinkedIn. So follow us. You will find out all the best stuff that's coming, including what the three of us fabulous people are up to. Am I right, kids?
Speaking of fabulous people, who are these fabulous people? Who are we today? Who's hosting the show? Because
I think as you all probably know, if you were here last week, I had a lot of airtime. So they invited me back to the driver's seat. My name is Kyle. I am the founder and principal analyst at Kyle & Co., where research meets reality. We are a next-gen research and advisory firm. And I am a geriatric millennial coming to you live from Boston. Brian, who the hell are you?
Who the hell am I? I'm Rush Chairman Brian Fink, and I am encouraging you to join the Purple Acorn Network on all the broadcast channels that we come at. I'm the managing partner of the Rework Group. We're an executive search firm that works with startups that are 4 people to 40 people, growing organizations, scaling their people and their processes. And I am joined by one of my favorite people. To my left, to my right, I'm joined by the one and only Robin from Humoriso. Robin, what's going on?
Hey, everybody. I should be in the middle and be sandwiched or something.
Stuck in the middle with you.
There we go. Too many songs going already today. I'm delighted to be here. And as you can see on where I work for Humoriso. Shout out to our fabulous commercial we had running at the beginning of the show. And we are, I can steal John's thunder. He already told everybody about it, but full service HR consulting, but with our Humoriso Technology Solutions vertical / platform / solutions as well. And so I get to dabble in all sorts of things and projects in the quote HR space / ecosystem. I just wanted to use the word ecosystem earlier.
It's a big word. It's a good one. Hello, you are also a published author. When is the audiobook coming out, Robin? Because remember, I was cackling just reading the first
you were cackling
pages of your book.
You were cackling. Screaming. I don't know that the audiobook will come out. I don't know. Maybe I'll just
wrap the show here.
Hold read-alongs or something. Maybe, perhaps.
So Robin, there's a quick and easy way to do that. There's an exchange that's called ACX on Amazon that allows you to either use a clone of your voice. You give a small sample, and then it produces it using LLMs and generative AI, or you go out and you find somebody who can do it. I'm going with option 1. Let's find some time. I'll show you how to do this.
Okay.
What that may be in time to be alive.
Cards. It is a time to be alive.
Oh my goodness. Well, I didn't actually get to debrief after HR Tech. Robin, what did you think? What was what was your takeaway from the show? I
Man,
show this year.
yeah, and part of it is I always have to take a step back because sometimes I think and I go, I'm just confirming the biases I already have. So I always have to be like, I saw lots of X. Well, because I was perhaps looking for X, you know. Um,
Hmm.
but I tried to not look for anything in particular. Um, but I always do for years and years and years. Um, try to get a sense of what's out there for SMBs because everybody
Mm.
always, this is my soapbox. I will never get off of it in my life. Of don't forget the SMBs. We employ, more people in the country than all the enterprise companies. Um, and I was very gratified to get a sense that the solution providers and the tech companies that service specifically set out to service SMBs and meet that market are finally perhaps not ashamed of the fact that they serve that market. Because
Good.
for so long it's like, oh well, we're going to start there, but we eventually want to get to enterprise. Okay,
Oh,
yeah, the money is there. Good on you. Who doesn't, right? But I just ran into a lot of people that were like, this is our niche. This is who we work with. They need us. We've got solutions that work for them, and we are more than content to be in this lane.
love that.
There's plenty of
I got to
business.
tell
And
you, as an industry analyst, I do a lot of briefings, and like that's where vendors tell you about themselves, or maybe show you their product, but talk to you about their story. And I am so overwhelmed with the number of we are enterprise first, AI first, like platform first. And it's like, okay, people. But there really are a lot of really important problems to solve in the SMB space.
yeah,
I think all three of us are part of SMBs. I'm pretty proud of what we do.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting space to be in, and especially when you're helping, like I am helping startups that are trying to figure out their technology foothold, where they're going to go, who they're going to be, what they're going to use to get from point A to point B. There are a lot of different caveats that need to take place. And Robin, I'm really impressed to hear that was the driving factor on the floor. Kyle, to your point, you say AI first. Is I'm wondering how many solutions out there were not AI enabled or didn't have a layer of AI or weren't dressing up Chat GPT as a in a wrapper and calling it their own product. Can you
Yep.
speak to that? How many people were actually doing their own thing?
No, yeah, well, now listen, I hear what I hear you. The message I received loud and clear. But to speak very plainly, AI is a core part of technology now. It's a core part of our work, not just in HR, but of our daily lives. So I can't help but like everyone's going to make sure that the industry knows what they are doing with AI because they're stakeholders. That the heads of HR and talent, the people that you all consult with, are also getting those questions from the C-suite and from the board. What are we doing in AI? So everybody had an AI answer, but I don't know that everybody was like anchoring their go-to-market, their big position, pitch, and position in AI. I think that some of the marketers are waking up to think, hey, we can actually go deeper and have more meaningful conversation than just those two letters.
I think what the conversations around AI on the floor, in podcasts, whatever, what those conversations have enabled us, the greater us in HR, to do is deepen our understanding, um, and almost go backwards in terms of now what we're implementing. So while these hot and sexy, let's talk AI, let's talk agentic AI, whatever, right? While those conversations are happening and people are fascinated, what it's done is allow the average practitioner to finally perhaps latch on to some of the things that came out years ago around automation, as an
Yeah.
example. I think automation continues to be one of the greater still needs and greater opportunities for a lot of organizations right now. If they get onto the right platform, there are a lot of people working with non automated enabled platforms. You're right. And they're still doing these processes in these very disjointed ways because they either don't have the appropriate technology or they've not flipped the switch to make it work for them. And so I think while we're talking about AI, the reality is, ooh, let's go back a couple of steps and finally now optimize these efficiencies that automation
With you.
has brought us.
I'm with you.
100.
I think if you as you look at my day job is to study innovation cycles in the world of HR and technology, and what we find is what's driving momentum in AI are a lot of foundational things.
Yeah,
If you
yeah,
compare the people that are early in their AI adoption journey, they are actually going to automation as a starting point because there really is a to your point those business cases that people were parading around like 5, 6, 10 years ago, those are still prevalent,
yeah,
right? It's just so funny. Our industry just like is constantly in shiny object syndrome, so we
yes,
just keep forgetting all of the good ideas that came before, you know. So I'm glad you call it out, Robin, because we don't need to have an AI avatar that's receiving like employee requests, right?
right.
We can still actually create a ticketing system for AI or for employee requests and automating some workflows. There's a lot of just straightforward and
Yes.
simple stuff we can be doing. Well, I speaking of, because it was so funny, Brian, that you asked like what was the word on the street? Was everybody talking about AI? You know, this week's show is brought to you by one of our friendly sponsors, and I was looking at the brief, and I actually don't think that they are positioning around AI. So I thought that was pretty.
Yeah, so our sponsor this week is, and the morning show is brought to us by Kika. You know, when Kyle taps on the fact that Kika is not positioning themselves to be AI first, I think what's really important to understand is that they're positioning themselves to be that PSA platform, that payroll platform, that HR platform for over 10,000 organizations and 2 million employees globally. And when you think about the size and scope of what that's intended to deliver, it's really driving home that automation at scale, those insights, those things that are actionable that Robin talked about. So, thanks to our partners at Kika. We're really glad to have you on board. And thanks for making this show possible for everybody who's tuning in today, tomorrow, and next week.
So I'm really interested in this story. Thanks to our producers, Alan. This was a great headline to pull out here. Stripe's head of AI says that she's hiring more new grads than ever, but she is fearing a mentorship crisis. Now, all of us are in the business of HR. We know the importance of mentorship and development and growth. Yeah, we are just talking about AI itself. What do you all think about this? I mean, as you look through the article, and you see that they are quoting several other leaders in industry who are taking different points of view. But there were some folks that were actually saying that they were anticipating that there was going to continue to be a major impact to entry level white collar jobs in the next 5 years, including the Federal Reserve Chair and the CEO of Anthropic, both anticipating impact here. What do you think?
Well, I think it's important that you bring that up right out of the gate, Kyle, because there's been a lot of concern and consideration around the idea that AI is killing those entry level jobs. And shortly after that, in that report and in that study, there was also the evidence that was put forth by McKinsey that AI is not killing entry level jobs, that they're actually looking to hire more junior level employees for the reasons cited by the head of talent acquisition and human resources at Stripe. Um, And you have Winston Weinberg, who's the CEO of AI startup Harvey, that says that they're more committed than ever to hiring these entry-level attorneys to better their product, right? And to grow their organization. And I think that's what it really comes down to, is that where are the fresh new ideas coming from? Are they coming from people who are in their 20s and 30s, or are they, instead of being replaced by that AI slop that's coming out from a chat GPT? You got excited when I said slop. I apologize. Yes.
Well, it's just because I am. Yeah. Anyway, I agree with you, Brian. I would like to hear from Robin, who has sat on the front lines of HR so much. You have seen a lot of entry level talent. You've also seen businesses that make the wrong decisions
Yeah.
around just over indexing on efficiency and cost cutting. What do you think about this,
Yeah.
Robin?
I think this is another. It's the same conversation. It's just now here's yet something else that we can slap the label of AI on and make people wave their hands and say what's happening. Because within the last 5 years, 2-3 years ago, when folks started to come back to the office, haven't we just recently been lamenting the fact that these new in their career folks don't know how to work together in the office anymore because they were hired remotely, they've always been remote, and now they can't go in the office. So how do we quote mentor these new hires when everybody's remote? We've got that going on. We've got, is AI taking their jobs? The reality is, instead of trying to shine a flashlight on one particular thing, or rapidly advancing technology, whatever, is, let's just, every industry is going to be different. Sit down within your organization, within your industry, and figure out what that means for you. What does that mean for you? So Emily Glassberg, worrying about her pipeline in 10 years. So sit down and think about that. Where does your pipeline come from? Because your pipeline at Stripe is going to be different than my pipeline at the, third party logistics company. I still need a pipeline, but it's different. So
Yeah,
Emily,
it's like, hey, we've got AI is not going to just happen to us.
right.
Like there is the intentional and implementation and utilization of these capabilities. The way that I think that this is why HR needs to be more AI literate and more
Yes.
savvy, because there is the risk of a cost sensitive business that is just over indexing on what they perceive as low cost. They might actually not be looking at the impact, like what is the outcome of the AIs that are like, if I look at recruiting as an example, recruiting, I am a little worried about entry level jobs. Recruiters entry level work would be sourcing, and like there would be early like recruitment coordinating and
Yep.
candidates. There's like it, there was a lot of just like task level work that they would do to
Yep.
get experienced. You know what I mean? AI interviewers are. I mean, that was one of the number one innovations that was being pushed at HR Tech this year. I think that everyone, and it's looking like the same for RecFest next week. If we implement these tools without thinking about what the work becomes for the rest of our workforce, if HR doesn't have an opinion and a recommendation to the business, then there is no reason why we won't automate as much of the task level work that is helpful to onboarding and orienting new talent. They will
Right.
just, there's no business case not to do it. Now, at the same time, like that's where, like, if we can say, look, can we run all these tasks? Sure. Do we have anybody to review the outputs of like one of the AI interviewing value props is we can interview everybody. Well, who's going to look through all of like you get 1,000 applications for one role? Who's going to look through all that and distill
Right.
the information? You know what I mean? Like, there's still work that needs to be done, but if HR leaders are not willing to say, "Hey, like you're looking at one little point in the entire ecosystem of work that needs to get done here, there is a lot of value that we can create there." But there's more value to be created on the other side of that. If we don't know, if we can't say that definitively, AI is going to happen to us, and not just entry level, but workforce like across all levels is going to be at risk of disruption. We need to make sure that we're stewards of this level of or
Yep.
this new wave of innovation,
Yep.
not just sitting on the sidelines like, oh no, AI happened. No one knew this was coming.
And the happening to us is I like phrasing it that way, is gonna happen unless we, the collective we in HR leaders, talent acquisition leaders, also stand up and say, um, within their own realm, right? If I need to look at my HR function, my HR team, my HR department, and say, what am I going to need 10 years from now? And
True.
if the roles are not the same, where am I going to get that, that new HR generalist from if I don't start planning for that now?
So I would tap into something that Kyle said earlier is I want to understand about the redistribution of this advantage, right? Of shifting from lower level work to higher level tasks and how
Yeah.
that could emerge and marry it to what you said, Robin, about the planning. Are we facing an environment where people are no longer doing succession planning and thinking about the long-term goals of an organization? Because I don't know that AI is going to. Let me just leave that question. What are we doing about succession planning?
I actually observe that strategic workforce planning, which is like succession planning, is a part of that
Sure.
exercise. I do see it as like for the last 2 or 3 years, like we run research surveys 3 or 4 times a year, and every survey you ask what are your priorities, just so we can track how they're shifting. Strategic workforce planning has remained in the top 5 priorities for the last several cycles. And I think that actually, with what I'm seeing for AI use cases around aggregating data, running scenarios for scenario planning, like Robin, how much time and effort does it take to put together your workforce plan every year?
Right.
Right?
Right.
It is an immense, like, and it is basically just process driven. It's getting ready for budget season. It's not really
Yep.
strategic. So
Yep.
Brian, I see AI keep it like AI and just tech advancements in general are unlocking more capability around succession planning and workforce planning. And so that's where I still am feeling like AI needs to know how these capabilities can enhance their core capability. Like I need to be looking at these tools not as disruptions, but as augmentations and accelerations of up leveling of our core capability. Like we can still be doing that. the I'm looking at the work itself. At the strategy side, I would say, of course, we're still looking at succession planning because I need to recognize, like, I mean, I'm a geriatric millennial. I remember being like the closest when I first came into the scene as a market researcher. I remember being the closest thing to a digital native that there was because the Xers and the Boomers, they're like, yeah, I don't know how to turn this into a PDF. I don't know how the fake
I
specs
worked with
are.
that guy. Yes.
We all have.
Um,
But so like there was a recognition of, oh wait, there is a level of experience that is outside of work experience, just like reality point of view, that each generation is bringing that is valuable. And so we do need to be looking at it. I observe maybe in your exec search conversations, it's not, I hope it's starting to show up, but that we're looking for what are the next gen skills that we need. What is the
Mm-hmm,
next gen perspective and experience that is going to help us remain as future proof as we can be.
mm-hmm.
So one of the things that we are discovering in those conversations, particularly around CTO searches that I'm engaged in right now, is the idea that leaders aren't born, that they're going to be built through the grunt work that AI does now. And again, I go back to that idea that efficiency without experience would not be progress. It's actually decay with just a better set of branding to it.
Mm.
Is that you've really got to lean in and you've got to build the ladder because the ladder is what's being killed here. I mean, when you automate the bottom, you strangle the pipeline to the top. I think that Robin's comments clearly identify that. So when I think about this article from Business Insider and about the implications that we're looking at from apprenticeships and work that PhDs are doing in those internship programs, that there still exists the opportunity for grunt work to be built and for grunt work to be built inside the organization by having particularly lead developers mentor and train those developers, those engineers, those data scientists, machine learning practitioners. again, like I'd suggested before just a minute ago, is that there's a lot of building that needs to be put into place, and it's how you set up those camps and how you build in those different directions.
I agree with I mean, it comes to intentionality. We're talking about is there a mentorship crisis? Well, there will be if we don't do anything about it. Robin, I think it's to your point. Like, do people who are hired and started their career in a digital environment, do they potentially need some cultural connection points? Like, like all of this stuff can happen if we
Right.
are just going to let it, right? It's like I need to be calibrating my strategy consistently, my workforce strategy, my leadership development strategy, my talent acquisition strategy to account for changes in our operating realities. Like that's what HR does. I feel like, like there is disruption, like imminent. There is some forced evolution that's happening. I mean, from COVID to now, we've been through hell and back, but the back part is a lot of the core work that we do. The purpose of our role is not changing. We need that we should feel empowered and ready to meet this moment because we've met every other moment in the past. Did entry level work go away when we had that major push into offshoring? I don't think so. I came up during the offshore trend, so you know what I mean? We already moved tasks like out of our core workforce in the past. So we've been at these points before.
And I think where HR needs to stay very visible and very vocal in these conversations is early on in those planning stages. And this happens, I think, much more so at the enterprise level. But when you're more mid-sized business, several thousand employees, you're a hospitality group, you're an insurance company, pick a industry, right? If those conversations, if those workforce planning conversations designed as business operations and continuity conversations, what are we going to do with the business 5 years from now? And they're happening. HR needs to make sure that those conversations are not happening without HR in the room to be part of that now more than ever, because those folks are the ones, those meetings are where those decisions are being made. We can eliminate this and this and this and this because AI will take it over. And then they just tell HR after the fact. So HR folks grow a spine and be vocal, be loud, and be sitting in that room when those conversations are happening, about what your company's workforce is going to look like 5 years from now.
I think, Robin, you said it best. If you want real succession, you need to stop outsourcing that intent to algorithms. You need to have a spine. Machines are going to optimize. Human beings are going to decide why it matters. Grow a spine, have a backbone.
Yep.
I am going to agree and disagree with you guys. I know our next segment is here, but I will say no one wants just the squeaky wheel right now. If you are going to elbow your way into that room, and I encourage you to, we need to be more than just the HR expert in the room. We need to be becoming solutions minded, value oriented, ready to support and advise. Know where we can put our feet down. But I say now, that's, if you look at the AI governance, like the AI councils that are being formed now, they're deciding what priorities we're setting across the enterprise. HR is often not being invited to that table. And I think we need to ask ourselves why. That is a conversation for another day. Brian, I think our next guest is here.
Do we have another guest coming in? Who's our next guest? Purpose Minds and Modern Talent Strategy. Lynn, what's going on? How are you today? Are you joining us from Las Vegas for the SAP conference?
I am yet again sitting my rear end here in Las Vegas. I'm sure there's an echo because I am getting ready to prep Rebecca to hit the keynote stage in about 15 minutes. And we're going to go make SAP modern. That's the plan.
I love that. I also love how recruiting is being rewritten in real time. As you talk about this and as you talk about what Rebecca's going to talk about, since we
Mhm.
can't stream it live here,
Yeah.
what do you think the big takeaway is going to be from what Rebecca has to say at SAP?
So I think the biggest takeaway is technology is allowing us to take something that we have made horribly complex through workflows and business processes and trying to make seats too noisy, making everything happen around here. Um, and it doesn't have to be that messy and it doesn't have to be that complicated. And at the end of the day, hiring is a fundamentally human experience. It is about connecting people to work and doing it at scale, and it's that's being generated and created. And sometimes we make it feel really antiseptic, and
Okay.
we can technology can change that for us.
All right. So wait a minute. When I hear antiseptic, I immediately think of some kind of bleach that gets rid of all empathy. How do you
Yep.
make sure that you're going to balance that efficiency with empathy when designing a talent system?
Well, so I think there's two parts to that. One, making sure that you're fundamentally only focusing on the right time. Too often, we just try and push everybody through a process, right? It's like how many we're worried about. Think about the metrics that we use. What is our rec volume, right? What is our application volume? What is our speed, right? What is our cost per hire? These are all very transactional and heavy data load metrics that we use to drive a process. If we pull back the onion a little bit and say, wait a minute, if I'm less worried about getting 300 applications to a job and then trying to process those people in what is honestly in the most inhumane way possible, right? Because you can't do that in a good way, right? And instead, reframe and redesign my process so I can target the right people, find them where they're at, get the right people into the right application process. And by the way, what if, let me throw this one at you, Brian. What if, as a job applicant, you fit into a company? Instead, the company was able to use technology to understand you enough to help you figure out where you'd be the right fit to even start the application process. We can get there.
Okay, so I like what you're laying down about
Did I
systemic
lose you?
talent.
You froze
No,
up.
am I here? Hello, Lynn. I think you're
Yep, I'm
frozen.
here.
Okay, cool. So I like what you're throwing down. How did I want to go back to what we were talking about in the last segment? I don't know if you heard it, but we were talking about traditional workforce planning and the business case around it and how it works in an AI driven economy. You want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I think so. You guys are talking to Kyle. Kyle's heard me preach this one left, right, and center. We've been pretending that we've been doing workforce planning or that we're going to solve workforce planning for like literally over a decade. Conversations we've been having for over a decade, and we act like they're new. Workforce planning and skills, right? Both fundamentally are really a static job and a static description of a human can come together to be able to create a future looking predictive understanding of how people are going to be able to be successful going forward. So when we actually leverage things like AI to be able to do predictive analysis, to have really strong embeddings, to understand how to connect what people say versus what they can actually do in really dynamic ways that can evolve and change, we can start to connect people in real time, not in the past or in some idea of the future. We can deal with it right here. That's going to solve both those issues. That's how we solve workforce planning.
Okay, I love that. Now, I'm curious, are we going to use a predictive layer to figure out what kind of training they need, where their deficits are, where they're
100%.
inefficient? Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. But I think we often think about this from the lens of how does the company understand the person and then tell the person what they need to do or how they should fit into this picture. It works as well going the opposite direction, which is helping using predictive technologies to understand what the company actually needs What types of roles do you actually need? Do you need a full-time person, a part-time person? Is this a temporary thing? Is this a role that's going to evolve and you need somebody who has types of skills that you haven't even imagined yet today, which is more apps what's going to start happening to us? So I think the predictive technologies, we're comfortable applying them to individuals. When we start applying them to actual companies, the data that we have inside companies, that's why, by the way, to me, that's the missing link here people aren't getting. This is why being a part of the SAP universe for us is so important, because now we have access to that data layer and story, to be able to actually connect the dots, to do this in a holistic way that is dynamic and modern and connected. So I get excited about it. Can you tell I've been prepping the keynote for like 3 days?
Dude, I'm excited about it. Like, I'm not going to be at RecFest next week, but when I saw that, SAP was in Vegas and Brandon Jeffs is on the ground, and I was like, and you're there. Have you seen Brandon? Have you talked to him yet? Have you talked to the
I have not yet. I have not yet. I literally been stuck in this room for the last 2 days, but I'm going to go out and find him. We've been texting. We're getting
Okay,
ready to have
good.
yeah.
Give him a hug for me. Let him give you a hug for me, and what have you. As we talk about the next evolution, can you give us an idea as to what the big takeaway, the big sneaky secret, or the hidden one more thing that's going to take place today? Can you give us a preview of what we're missing?
I think the one more thing is how fast this is going to move. I think we are used to living in a world where people get up on stage and talk about a roadmap, talk about a vision, talk about a plan, and then we're all show up. I think the big takeaway is going to be today's modern technology companies don't promise tomorrow. They deliver it when they tell you they're going to have it before you even know you need it. So I think it's going to be how fast it's going to happen.
Whoa, that's crazy. All right, so how fast it's going to happen? Are we talking about implementations going from 6 months to 3 months? Are we talking about
There's
people
no reason I'm going to tell you, Brian, there's no reason they need to take 3 months anymore. I think that's going to go faster. I think the speed of technology connection will only be hindered by the speed of businesses to make decisions and choices.
Okay. All right. Speeds and choices. Lynn,
That was cryptic enough for you? There you go.
that I was like, well, I mean, I got the speed from it. And like, I'm the fast guy. Like, I like to go
Yeah.
fast. Like, I like fast cars. I eat my food fast. I like my women fast. Whatever. It's all good. The strong reality is, I think you gave us a clear as mud prediction of what the future
Yeah.
looks like.
Yeah.
Lynn, we look forward to connecting with you next week. Or are we off next week because we're at RecFest?
I don't know. I'll be at RecFest. I'll be on the ground at RecFest with Purple Acorn. I'm sure we'll talk.
All right, so
We'll have
you'll be
some
stopping
convos.
by the booth with everybody else. Lynn,
Yep.
thank you so much. Have an epic day in
Thanks,
Vegas.
guys.
Enjoy SAP.
Thank you.
And thanks for
Thank you so
joining us.
much. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Ooh, and here he is. He just rang in, and Andy has arrived. Hi, Andy. Oh, I need your microphone.
Can you hear me?
There we go.
All right, awesome. How
Fantastic.
Are you,
Good. Well, welcome to the show, and very interested to hear about what you are up to, because it's very interesting and fascinating. So let's dive in right from the start and tell us a little bit about yourself, and specifically tell us about Do Good.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Andy Choi. I'm the founder and CEO of Do Good. Our core product is called NAS, just like SaaS, software as a service. NAS is nonprofit as a service, where we allow for-profit businesses and individuals, community builders, to faith-based entrepreneurs, to startup founders to have a nonprofit without the headache and trouble of setting up and maintaining their own nonprofit. So, Robin, you can have the Robin Foundation tomorrow, where you can have a fully compliant nonprofit, receive donations, all of the good things that come with it, brand reciprocity, cause marketing, grant funding, without any of the trouble and cost and headache and liability of maintaining your own 501c3.
And tied in with that is the platform as well, correct?
Correct. So it's not just a nonprofit, but what are
Yeah.
all of the back-end mechanisms you need in order to maintain and operate a successful business, but also anything from running campaigns, cause marketing campaigns, to processing donations, all of the technology and things that you need. We essentially are a utility belt and a turnkey solution for anything and everything social impact related.
What see, now this is the question that gets me to the heart of everything. What was the impetus for starting the business? Where did you see the need, and sort of what
Yeah.
led to it?
Well, let me ruffle some feathers here by making this
Woo!
statement.
Okay.
we we don't believe that this world needs more nonprofits, right? I think we need to better fund and equip organizations that are doing great work, that have infrastructure. If you look at the nonprofit sector right now, the last 40 plus years, as long as it's been tracked, giving has been fixed at about 2% GDP. The vast majority of every nonprofit organization, at about 72%, are struggling financially to maintain revenue and growth for impact. So you look at other stat points where like over more than 50% operate at less than $100,000 in revenue. Like it is a struggling industry, and it's what we call the golden handcuffs. We look at the social sector as like this kind of redheaded stepchild that is like gets no love and attention, but everyone wants it to do well, and mean well, but it doesn't have the resources. So our NAS solution, we as a foundation, a social enterprise that have both a for-profit technology company and a foundation registered 501c3, our goal with NAS is to pull in more resources, make the pie bigger, right? We want to activate businesses and individuals that want to do good, but make that as easy as possible, right? So breaking down all of the barriers and the friction in order to do good, right? So NAS, nonprofit as a service, is one enablement to solve that larger problem.
Is this of interest? I would imagine can particularly be of interest to I'm Acme Corporation, and I'm interested in setting up a not-for-profit arm of my for-profit company,
Absolutely, right? So I think
foundation or whatever.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different options. We are providing a new option that is, again, what we believe to be the easiest solution and the most cost effective, right? Setting up your own nonprofit costs thousands of dollars, right? Anywhere between $8,000 to $10,000. Usually takes anywhere from 6 to 12 months. But in addition to that, or more importantly, you have to maintain the nonprofit. There are corporate governance. It's highly regulated. It's a big liability, and it's a lot of work, right? And what we want businesses to do is to focus on what they do best, is running their business. But we believe that every business also can be redemptive, right? That you can have what we call profit with purpose, right? Like the whole idea of like buy a pair of shoes, give away a pair of shoes. If everyone remembers Tom's shoes, Warby Parker now buy a pair of glasses, give away a pair of glasses, that your growth and your bottom line can help and impact society in a better way. And by doing so, like having your own nonprofit enables that and empowers that from a brand storytelling piece, brand reciprocity. All of the data shows, particularly with the younger generation, they do not want to associate themselves with a brand that does not reflect their values, right? And when it comes to companies, again, we need to better equip them with ways to have greater social impact without the burdens and trouble of it, right? So we think traditional CSR programs are kind of outdated. There's not a lot of new technology and platforms that really enable employees, but also customers to get really involved in the social impact of a brand and a company. And we believe NAS is the solution for that.
How how do folks find you, and what would you say are some of the things, if I'm interested in starting a nonprofit, what are some of the things I should come to that initial meeting with Do Good
Yeah, I think all
to
of
kick it
us,
off?
we like the one thing that, this comes from a personal level, but also from a just kind of organizational level. We all want to do good. I genuinely
Yeah,
believe that every person wants to do good. But there's a gap between our intentions and our actions, right? Like life happens and life happens fast, right? Like, and there are priorities and things happen. And this doing good oftentimes, in reality, is an afterthought, right? But I think what we need to see is the real opportunities, but also the pain points, right? From an HR perspective, there was a big study that came out called The Great Detachment, where how employees are feeling more disconnected than ever to their employers, right? So, two of the big stat points was a mismanaged expectation, but two,
hmm.
really not seeing the value of how their work contributes to society,
Yep.
right? And I think there's a huge disconnect, particularly with the younger generation. It's like, call it like, what is my purpose? What is my reason? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And when it comes to businesses, oftentimes profit, again, I believe in capitalism. Capitalism works, right? We all participate in it. But is there a way that the companies that we work with can have deeper meaning? And when we
Yeah.
see that as an opportunity rather than a nice to have, like, that is a way to drive employee retention, engagement, satisfaction all across the board, right? But I think the other thing to come to the table with, going back to your question, Robin, is really seeing the opportunity, right? Like, again, using Tom's Shoes as a model, they're a multi-billion-dollar company that was really able to grow their brand based on brand reciprocity. I think when we
Hmm.
think of charity and philanthropy, we usually often think of it as a charity handout or this
Hmm.
after. How about we look at it from the lens of revenue opportunity, right? You have to buy that pair of shoes first before you can give one away, right? So even for
Right.
an app download company, it's like for every app download, we're going to plant a tree. For every XYZ action, we're going to do this, and it's going to positively impact society. I
Hmm.
think that really helps grow that brand, the brand
Hmm.
retention, the engagement, and the loyalty. And I think businesses need to come to the table, going back to your question, with the lens of like, hey, we can grow profit with purpose.
Yeah. Yep. And that's true whether they are a for-profit business or a nonprofit entity as well. So I think it's a fascinating concept and very interesting. Let Andy, let our listeners know and folks that are watching us where they can find you.
Yeah, well, they can check out our website at about.dogoodpoints.com. We do a ton of content and information sessions and resources on LinkedIn. So you can find me, Andy Choi, on LinkedIn for the founder and CEO of Do Good. And again, do good. Like, think of that term, right? Remember
Mhm.
that term, search for it. We want to break down any barriers to doing good. And I say this, especially as we go into Q4 and the holiday season. This is our Q4 is like the Super Bowl season for us. It's when everyone thinks about doing good. It's the warm and fuzzy season.
Yep.
I want to give a reminder that hunger is not just an issue in November and December,
Yep.
right? And like, the world's problems are heightened, and our responsibility as business people, as corporations, our participation is no longer an option. If you don't stand for something, you stand for nothing, right? And as businesses and then as individuals, I challenge everyone to come to the table, right? Represent your organization in a way that's reflective of your brand and your values, right? Like,
Right.
and that can be climate, that can be whatever it is to your ethos. But participating and driving that discussion is absolutely necessary. So I hope people can reach out, and looking forward to connect.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Andy, and glad to have you on the show.
Thanks, Robin. Thanks, everyone.
Ring, ring, ring. It's time for another conversation with two of my favorite girlies. Hey, Sophia and Sarah. Um,
Hi.
okay, Sarah,
How are you?
love the lip reading opportunity that you're giving us. However, the audio is not coming through. No problem. Sophia, what's up?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you just fine.
Okay. Yeah,
Hi.
there's a little unmute button at the bottom, Sarah.
I have it now.
Oh my God, have we ever been on a virtual meeting before? No, it's so great to have you all here from Horizon Human. Of course, I know who you are because you are my consulting partner for HR transformation. I'm really looking forward to doing some work with Horizon Human at Kyle and Co. But for our audience, maybe they are not so familiar. So I'll ask you to introduce yourselves. And Sarah, I will start with you.
Sure. Thanks, Kyle. And thanks again for having us on. We are very excited about the partnership with Kyle and Co. I am one of two founding partners for Horizon Human. We are an HR transformation shop, I think is the best way to talk about it. So, as we talk about all of this wonderful new technology and new ways of working coming through, HR itself must transform. How HR delivers product, how HR creates experiences for their employees, and indeed for the HR practitioners themselves. There is a whole level of transformation that comes through. So we like to talk about ourselves as being at the intersection of business, process, and technology, and helping to make sense of it all for CHROs and other senior leaders in HR. I can give you a little
What a
background.
to be alive.
Yes.
Yeah, no, yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that you have definitely chosen an incredible time to step into this side. Sophia, I know that you two worked together in your most recent roles, but you've been in the consulting space for a minute. Do you want to say hey to everybody as well and tell them a little bit about your background?
Yes, of course. So I'm the other half of Horizon Human, and like Kyle said, started my career as a consultant. Spent a long time, over 13 years, in Deloitte with Deloitte Consulting, doing all things HR transformation, human capital focus. I got an opportunity to spend some time during that time, really building out ideas around the future of HR and kind of future HR operating models and what's the digital HR all about and how does it all come together and how do we take an experience lens to everything we do. And then that led me to a very cool job where I was the head of digital strategy at JP Morgan Chase, a small bank, you may have heard of it, where I helped the HR function transform to what we called at the time a product operating model, but more kind of what that is just being able to take advantage of all the technology that's being thrown at us, rethinking kind of the capabilities of the HR function to really be ready for the future. And that's where I met my wonderful business partner in crime, Sarah.
I love to hear it. And I also just love the approach. I don't know if you all were able to tune in for the first part of the show, but Brian Fink and Alin Bailey were having a conversation. And I loved what Brian called out. Alin had this really good point with some about like technology as an antiseptic for some of the persistent problems in our space. And Brian latched onto that metaphor and had a different perspective. And then I noticed it specifically in your positioning. He was like, how do we ensure antiseptic is not just bleach that we're dumping on living organisms, right? And then just getting rid of it all. How do we make sure that we maintain empathy? And I imagine that the long background, like the long careers that you both had at the corner of innovation and HR delivery, that you've had some experience with these things before. Sarah, I'd love to know, like, how are you as you're approaching your clients, as you are advising them on this is this is really crazy times that we're in, right? How are you helping to make sure that we strike that balance between automation, augmentation, AI enabled HR, and preserving that empathy, that judgment, and trust?
It's probably a key pillar for how I operate and certainly operated when I was leading, large recruiting organizations, which is trust is the currency that HR has more than anything else. Spend it, improperly or willy nilly, and you're going to get really, really negative returns. So when you start talking about really amazing tech coming through, and I loved what Alana was talking about in terms of the skills platform and where Smart Recruiters is going with the SAP work, my first thought was, how do you bring people along in that change? And how do you help them and platform them to understand hey, their roles are going to have to change. In fact, the skill set that you need in HR is going to have to change in order to work in those systems and skills. And so while I was listening and very excited about Alana sharing that it would take, I think it was like around 3 months or something was what she was saying she was hoping implementation would get to. My first thought was humans don't adapt to that kind of change in 3 months. Um, and so the work that we do with CHROs and the work that I think is really important is bringing people along in the change, platforming what the future state is going to be, creating transparency around that change, and trying to alleviate as much, I'd say, anxiety around change as you possibly can. So it's a big part of the work that we do. And I think that's probably going to be the limiter in some of this amazing new technology that's coming out, which is how fast can people adapt and adopt.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I actually love this is a point I wanted to make sure to capture. And Sophie, I didn't mean to cut you off. You'll have a thought here. Sounds like there might be a murderer at somebody's door that dog's protecting us from. Um, but you said that trust is the greatest currency that HR has. I agree, but I do find that maybe we assume that our actual greatest currency is our expertise, our subject matter expertise as HR. And I don't know, especially in a LLM age, you can get a lot of answers to a lot of complicated questions with AI now. So I don't know. I just wonder if that's partly where we're looking at the change that needs to happen. Is there's a big mindset shift there. Me being an HR expert alone is not enough for me to be an HR executive at this moment. I would love to hear what you all think about that.
Yeah, I can go so many ways with this question, but just to sort of tackle it around the expertise, and I'm going to anchor it in sort of real life experience or a real life use case, if you will. When we did the work that we did at JP Morgan, we shifted sort of the design of what the HR teams could look like based on what we're trying to achieve. So essentially what we had was maybe, 80% HR SMEs, HR experts, if you will. And what we needed was maybe 20% HR experts. We needed experienced designers, we needed user researchers, we needed technologists to be able to achieve the work that we wanted to do in becoming a much more technology-led, product-led, experience-led organization. So I say that that's sort of a warning for companies. I think we do need to move in that direction, or companies to move in that direction to take advantage of everything that is coming at us. And then on the trust piece, I think that and bringing people along and kind of having the expertise, I think instead of thinking about all the great things that you can do with HR because you're the expert and you can see so many opportunities, you have to anchor it in what people want. What are the outcomes you're trying to drive, and what do your actual stakeholders or people that you're delivering this for, what do they want? And that is sort of a cornerstone in how you can actually drive a successful change, an adoption strategy, and sort of make it stick. Is that you deliver something to people that they want. So that's a lot
Yeah.
of the work. Sarah, that's how we anchor our work all the time.
I love to hear you say it. I think if we use, and like we're looking at AI right now, that's the big like glaring thing in front of us. But your methodology, your experience, I think is what was missing from skills-based talent strategy transformation. We were doing HR stuff. We weren't anchoring that work in actually like needed, desired business outcomes. We were thinking, oh, there's a better way for, and they weren't wrong, but we over-indexed on like, oh, there's a better way for us to standardize all of the work that happens from L&D to talent acquisition. There's a better common language that we can all be speaking across the HR functions and into the business. Those things were true about skills, but we were really expecting that just the innate value of those hypotheses would be enough to unlock a massive amount of change that needed to occur. So the two of you have quite a bit of experience, and being in delivering a different kind of HR operating model, running a different type of talent function. What are some of the pitfalls or maybe some of the landmines that you see in the work that you are doing now that you are at HorizonHuman making sure that you safeguard against for your clients?
I'll start, and I know Sophia and I are pretty. We talk about this all the time. I think the first thing is seeing the shiny, pretty object. And Kyle, you talk about this all the time. I think everyone, here has been talking about this, seeing the shiny object and saying, oh, that's an HR tech product that I want to implement, as opposed to, again, connecting it to the business outcome, but also really understanding the business processes that you're trying to solve for. And understanding, hey, if your outcome is efficiency in recruiting, sure, everyone's going to head straight towards candidate filtering because that's a huge opportunity. But what if that's hard to do because of regulatory challenges or the fact that the technology probably isn't really all the way there quite yet, right? So maybe you focus on other things that deliver efficiency. The only way you can do that is by effectively understanding how people work today. And that doesn't mean looking at, the workflow that you designed in your HCM. That is sitting down with a team and process mapping. Where are the 20 emails that happen offline because the HCM doesn't cover this one piece? Where are the manual QA points that you have to put in based on audits or requirements from your legal team that you never really anticipated and the HCM doesn't do it? So, I'm giving very sort of niche specific examples to say, understand your business process cold. And I mean, really understand every single piece of it before you go shopping, before you start thinking about what kind of transformation you want to drive. And then I think the other piece that we really anchor on is you're going to buy a major piece of technology. You've done your process mapping. You've identified your business outcomes. You understand your use cases. Be mindful that when you purchase a new piece of technology for your organization as a CHRO or a TA leader or whomever it might be, you're going to do exactly what Sofia just said. You're going to need less subject matter experts and you're going to need more product experts. You're going to need configuration. You're going to need audit. You're going to need data science. You're going to need data architecture, all of which don't sit in HR today. So really think about that organizational design.
Really interesting. I actually wanted to use that to segue into the next question because I think that you're teeing this up like perfectly well. The question that we had was, when we are hearing about AI in HR, we actually talked about it earlier today, not even like just the impact AI might be having on entry-level white-collar jobs, but the impact it's having on entry-level workers too, of disruption and mentorship. But many are thinking about the impact that AI is having in HR as a threat to jobs. It sounds like from you all, I'm going to put some words in your mouth, tell me to take them back out, that it's an opportunity for us to think about how do we evolve alongside this new. I mean, this is a once in a multi-generation like change, in my opinion. But so how do we think about this, especially because you are working at that C level? How are we positioning that transition? How are we making this not just widespread disruption and workforce impact, like in a negative way? How do we look at this as a catalyst for an overdue evolution? Yeah, what do you think? And Sophia, maybe we can just come back to you on this.
Yeah, I don't think that people are talking enough about this. So thank you for the question. But I do think that we heard it earlier, workforce planning, and we can all agree it's not been done well. It's very far and few between. I don't think that HR organizations really fully understand what it means and what it could do. I think that this is the one thing that HR needs to do right now is to think about the impact and look at, yes, we talked about the HR function, but that holds true for across, whatever business you're in. Understand how technology is changing the jobs that are coming, that you have, and understand then kind of what jobs are going to be done by AI and what tasks. People like to talk about tasks or what skills, blah, blah, blah. Then what is going to be the human side? And then I do truly believe that HR, back to the trust that Sarah was talking about, that's where HR will continue to build trust by being transparent in saying, yes, our CEO said we're going to cut, so and so many jobs. It's what he's telling Wall Street. That's fine, but we're also going to need these jobs and these skills. And here is a plan that I, as an HR leader, am going to help kind of enable the organization with the human skills. So I think that that's sort of where the conversation needs to be, and where
Great.
HR really step up and play a big role in this transformation.
I'm with you, and I think that it is again an opportunity. It is going to be a challenging conversation, but I think like the adults we're always going to have naysayers, right? we're always going to have people who are looking, like trying to read between the lines to hear what you're really saying. But how could a CEO like tell the board, we know that 10% of our workforce is now redundant because of the immediate applications of AI today? How could that person possibly defend? But we're going to keep them all on anyway, and for multi-million, tens of millions of dollars. You know what I mean? Like there's I have to respond to the immediate redundancy or the immediate impact. But HR could also step in to say, well, that was redundant, but look at all this new, look at all this white space in front of us as well. We do have, it is catalyzing new opportunity, not just catalyzing negative impact. What do you all think about that? Am I being a little, I get to sit on the research side, so I don't have to deliver it, but I do observe that in the research that we see. Is that something that's realistic to, like, I don't know,
Not,
to look to CHRs to do?
yeah, I would say that CHRs are starting to step into that gap. And I want to go back again to Alana and Brian's conversation around workforce
Lynn?
planning. So, I think savvy CHROs are saying, hey, instead of spending to 100 million, 30 million, whatever size TA organization you have, on recruiting totally new talent, we have talent in here. We understand that their skill set is analyzing, connecting dots, administrative work. How do we reskill that population as opposed to going out and spending more money? Should we invest in reskilling? Does reskilling work? And how expensive might it be? And I'll say that we talk about reskilling a lot in HR. I don't think anyone's cracked it in terms of reskilling, say, talent acquisition professionals into being product professionals or configuration specialists or any of the other roles that could happen. I think that we should. I think that someone should, and it's a huge opportunity. Um, I'll also say that I think right now we're in a little bit of a fad phase with AI, in terms of how I know how CEOs are adopting it, which is everyone is saying 30% off the top. I don't value HR, or that hidden thing that we always thought about, which is maybe they didn't value HR, is let's automate everything in HR. And I think that strong CHROs are stepping into that conversation and saying that's not the right thing to do. It's not the right thing in the human thing to do, but it's also not the right thing to do for the company long term. And they're using data to have those conversations.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm glad to hear you say it. But, it's so interesting. Two things I'm going to react. The skills conversation, we haven't spent enough time on reskilling, upskilling, cross-skilling ourselves, our own functions. We've kept a lot of the same skills profiles across all of the HR functions. But you had said something which is going to lead us to our very final question. We're like, before we run out and spend all this money and do all these things, But I am curious for HorizonHuman, for the consulting space in general, when do you believe that an organization should bring in outside HR, like should go out, to make some investments in getting a bit of that, like, peek around the corner, to look across the next couple of horizons to do that work? When are you seeing that clients are ready for engaging for transformation consulting? Sophia, maybe I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think there's two types of clients. One that's, let's say kind of far behind the curve. And that's where we come in to help, take the learnings of everybody else that have come before them and kind of do some of the work that we talked about earlier, and helping to prevent some of the major pitfalls, help guide them in a way that's going to, bring them impact maybe faster. And the market, it's sort of so interesting. It swings to, like, unified, best of breed, back again, back and forwards. And so like, let's just cut out all that noise and, focus on what they're trying to achieve. And I think we leapfrog with our clients. Then there are the clients that have, implemented their cloud solution years ago and are looking at, well, now there's all this AI. How do I put that into the system? Like, what is that? How do I optimize what I already have? Or I have this and this and this, and they all kind of do the same things because, this product never stopped, innovating. So now I have something, in my ecosystem, I have three things that do the same thing seemingly. So Those are the sort of two. It's like starting from scratch, and then the ones that are like, oh, I have a bowl of spaghetti I need to sort out. Those are the types of clients that we love, that we sort of spend our time with. But Sarah, what else?
You know,
You
I
want to
I
think
add?
actually a question for you, Sarah, is which
Yeah.
one
Okay.
do you have the most fun with?
what do I have the most fun with? What
Of
client?
those two, yeah, those two client scenarios, which one's more fun for you?
So
I
I
know this is
lived
all a lot of work.
through.
We enjoy it, right?
So I can have fun with both. No shade to one side or another, right? I
Okay.
have lived through the bowl of spaghetti many,
Sketty.
many, many, many times in my career, and it is undoing things that were done. It is undoing behaviors. It's undoing expectations and redesigning behaviors. It is quite a bit of work. The blank slate gives more opportunity to really create the organization of the future. So there are different types of fun. I really enjoy counseling leaders in terms of thinking through, hey, these are the steps that you need to take to drive change. And so does Sophia. Like this is where, I think that we're really, we're practitioners. We've been there. We understand what worked the last time we tried to drive change, and we can bring those best practices to life. When you're undoing that super messy bowl, that's all change work. It's all change work. Yes, there's tech work. Yes, there's business process transformation, but it's change.
Yeah, love it. All right, well, we are at time. It is always a pleasure catching up with the two of you. I look forward to seeing Sophia in Paris at Unleash
We
World. And Sarah, I look forward to seeing you on a couple of Zoom calls in the next couple of weeks.
Mm.
Where can we find you?
You can find us at www.horizonhuman.com or on LinkedIn. And Kyle, I'll just remind you that while we haven't announced it, we'll be on stage together at ERE.
Got it. See you guys there. Thanks for coming,
You
Sophia.
heard it
Bye,
here
Sarah. Have a
first.
great one.
Thank you.
Good morning, beautiful people. So it's been now around 4 years since we saw the first pay transparency legislation in Colorado. And although we have seen adoption in many other states, we have also seen platforms like Indeed encouraging the practice. But to be honest, I don't feel like it's working like it was intended. So here's the reality: pay transparency laws were meant to close the gender pay gap, but it actually hasn't fixed the real problem. Like, there's still a motherhood penalty, there's still occupational segregation. So, like, we need more women in trades and other high paying male dominated areas. So what's happened is transparency has shined a light on the challenges, but it hasn't fixed what's in the shadows, and it's caused other problems. So there's a new research that shows when companies publish pay data, both performance and motivation drops. So people start comparing, second guessing, some of them even disengage. It turns out a little bit too much sunlight can actually burn. So don't get me wrong, I'm a big believer of paid transparency, but here's the thing: you can't just open the blinds. You need to clean the room first. So you need to audit your pay philosophy. You need to address inequities before you publicize them. And I think this is the most important thing. You need to train leaders to handle really tough conversations with the employees. The thing is, pay transparency should build trust, not turmoil. And we've been seeing a little bit of that. So if we look at transparency, it's not about showing the numbers, it's about owning the story behind them. That's the forecast. It's a little hot, a little uncomfortable, but necessary if we want clear skies ahead. Back to the panel. So, guys,
Wow, that was
Andy, welcome.
spicy. That was spicy.
what I think we're all on the same
very
page.
spicy.
Like, are we on the same page that pay transparency is good, right? Like, overall, I think we're all on the same page. But is it being executed like it should? Is it really actually fixing the problems that it was intended to? I don't think so. And I think the data shows that we still have a lot of work to do. Although this might have been the first, like a really good first step. It's just the first step. What's your take?
I yeah, I think it's a first step. I think we are still at that. We almost just stepped off the starting block here, because when I think about what what kicked off the the movement that we had around pay transparency, it was the Lilly Ledbetter Act here in the US, which
Yeah.
really galvanized people to say, this is, this was an egregious example of when pay is not transparent. And that's not that long ago. That was Obama that signed that into law. That's not that long ago. So we are still really at the very beginning. And every state is different. So here in the U.S., we've got this hodgepodge of, in this state, we're going to
States
post
and
our
cities.
hiring wages, and then in this one, we're not. And so candidates really get more information than employees, although
Yeah.
employees go and look at that stuff too. But even candidates don't see the whole picture because it depends on where they are. So it's, we're moving.
It's moving a lot.
I do like the concept, Serge, the framing that this should create this should be creating friction. I feel like this actually I like the clear skies ahead. I do think it does create contention I mean, Robin has been on that front line of HR for a long time. We know that even our most expertly designed and well-intended approach to pay transparency will not always be received by the most well-intentioned and expert audience. So it is very challenging, but I do really like the almost like resetting a North Star on it. It does come down to equity, and I like that. I think that's productive, and I think that infuses a different spirit into the work than what might have been there before.
Oh, wow. Kyle, usually you and I are simpatico on things, but I don't think there's anywhere that this is near efficient or sufficient, or that this is a great first step. I mean, Robin pointed out that laws are fragmented state by state. They're weakly enforced. They're often limited in scope. I think that this has really strong repercussions when it comes to underpaid groups. It compresses the top end salaries, and it downward rather than push upward for those underrepresented populations of women, people of color. It's easier in flat, well-defined industries like public sector and academia. But when you get to junior or senior layered or commission-based roles, this thing, dude, like stock, bonus, perks, they're rarely fully transparent, which leaves room for a lot of hidden levers for inequity.
So how do we fix it, Brian? Big question.
I think, that's a great, because I'm thinking I don't think that either of us are disagreeing that is actually the whole point, that there are these very fundamental challenges that go into pay equity, and that the framing for pay transparency has maybe missed the point. So we actually are on the same page. My perspective is that we do need to have more. We can say that this is really complicated. There is fragmented legislation, that it is, you know what I mean? Like that is a fraught initiative. I think it's okay for us to humanize the effort, and not just put like a salary range on a job description.
Yeah, but see, I think the salary range thing is such bullshit, because like it anchors things, and then you say there may be other forms of compensation. And when you say other forms of compensation, there's no transparency into how much equity an individual is given in a private organization. It's only when it's disclosed in public transactions, how many shares of stock Tim Cook got, or how many shares of stock Sonny Nadella got.
That old queen. Just kidding.
I'm worried about that queen. I'm not ready for that queen to leave.
Robin, Robin, let me ask you though, because I actually agree with you, Brian. But what's the solution? I mean, like, if I do put out there all of the paths to like all the different dimensions of compensation, I am going to have somebody who is going to expect all these levers of in compensation, especially in executive compensation, but even in senior contributor, are tools. They are not commitments. And I will say that like transparency is also a fraught concept in HR. We cannot be completely transparent about everything. We will just try to infuse transparency where it is helpful.
And as we have, again, this is very US specific, but as we have, 50 states trying to come up with their own way and definition of what this means, we have a number of states that, could give a crap if you put what you're going to pay on your job posting. And then we have other states that are deepening what they already had in place. New Jersey just this past summer went active with their benefits transparency aspect of their law. And so now when you post a job in New Jersey, it's not good enough really to say, although it's kind of unclear what they want you to say exactly, but they've made it clear they don't want you to just say, we have, like, what does everybody say, right? We have competitive benefits, including health, dental, whatever. New Jersey wants you to deepen that level of transparency to get at more of a, in their mind, kind of this total comp sort of thing. And it's all that it is it's just making it more busy work without any real guts or standardized solutions to answering the basic question that people want to know, which is, am I going to be paid fairly for this job? And it doesn't matter if I'm black, white, a female, a veteran, over 60, whatever. And we can't answer that question.
Should candidates be asking the question differently, I wonder? Should they say, instead of saying, what's the compensation range for this role, should they be asking the question, what are other people who have my skill set compensated at? Should they be asking this question differently? No? Okay.
No, that's a really good point. And I want to go back to like 2021 when this came into legislation in Colorado, and I was hiring tech talent and I was hiring across the US, and those roles were remote. And I actually had hiring managers say, don't post a job in Colorado because that's going to cost for us. Like, there was huge operational challenge. So 2021, it's 4 years back. So the labor market has shifted dramatically. But if we look at it, I remember hiring tech talent and we had to go like 50% higher than we did with our existing employees to even get them to talk to us. And that seems like, okay, bring everyone up to the same range. That seems like the solution. But bring everyone up to the same range could actually bankrupt the company at that particular time until we had a plan in place. So here we are in the marketplace putting out what the job or what the pay is, and we're seeing internal employees before we have time to make any adjustments to our business, seeing that causing a huge amount of turmoil and challenges. So I guess it kind of goes to that point. Unless this is national, I think it's going to be very challenging because to your point, Robin, like some states are not going to give like a crap. Like there's no way I want to do this. There's a divide between red and blue states of if they feel it's important. So I think this has to be tackled on a national level. And I don't think it's going to be tackled, not to get political in this current administration. The next one maybe, but it's definitely something that we have to look at. But I think the biggest thing that everyone should take away from this is pay transparency is still very helpful, but you got to do a couple of things. You got to figure out internally what you're doing before you put it out there. The most important thing, and I've seen this go offside so many ways, is how our managers handle those conversations with employees when we had to go out and show salary and not. Let's be really transparent of what we need to do and how we're going to get there. But that's the HR weather, guys. So I'll let you go, but it's you guys have been doing an amazing job as guest co-hosts, all three of you. It's smoother than normal. Like I said, it was in the green room. I don't know what we're gonna do with Danielle and Joel, but we'll see. We'll have
Who cares? Thanks.
Hey,
So,
thanks a lot.
thank you so much. This was a fabulous conversation. Brian, where do you live again?
I live in Atlanta, Georgia.
I would be right down there because I'm in a bone to pick with you, Mike. Just kidding. Imagine if we started real beef after that conversation. No, I agree with Serge. This has been fabulous. I really had a great time. I think we've had some really deep thinking conversations. Hopefully, some interesting and useful ones. The energy's definitely been high, but I got to tell you, I was texting Evan, our lovely head of the Purple Acorn movement, how much I have enjoyed hearing from both of you. Yeah, it's been a fun day, hasn't it?
It has been a fun day.
It went really
Rob?
quickly. It went just as fast as Alin was talking about the adoption of AI and how radical things are going to be at the SAP conference. Speaking of conferences, though, there's a hell of an event going down next week.
There is indeed.
It's a hootenanny.
Wreckfest, baby. Yeah, Purple Acorn is showing up at Wreckfest in a big, big way. I will be a part of that. Lynn will be a part of that. Several of the usual suspects that you see on this show each week will be a part of that. We actually have a dedicated booth at Wreckfest. We'll be doing podcasting.
So
We'll be doing live
fancy.
streaming. I was trying to get a nail tech in the booth so I could get my nails done while I do an interview with somebody. I thought that would be really funny.
There'd
But
be a line like that.
I know, right? All the vendor branding I'd have on all my nails. Anyway, but it will be a brilliant time. Robin, are you and John going to be there?
Yep, with
I
bells on.
cannot wait. Brian, you will be sorely missed, my guy.
Hey, dude, this is going to be, it's going to be a great event. I wish I was going to be there. There are going to be great presentations and conversations led by Adam Posner. He is going to be on one of the stages. You have got closing out. You have people like Anna Morgan, who's going to be on stage, and she's excellent. She always brings the energy to her panel. There's Glenn Cathy, who's going to be there. A lot of energy. There'll be a lot of conversations. Yep. And one of the things that makes this conference unique and makes my heart hurt that I'm not going to be there is the camaraderie that takes place on the field. And I know that Evan's telling me it doesn't have to be that I could bring Maddie to Wreckfest, right? You know, the future CHRO Finco.
That's right.
But we will see.
That would be such a gag if you did end up being there. I will say, word on the street is Kyle & Co.'s latest swag will be debuting at Wreckfest as well. It's looking pretty cute. There is a BFF party that we're hosting. Anna has a fabulous event over at the Nashville Zoo. There are a couple of parties, as you would expect, on Broadway. Chad and Cheese is having one. I'm going to be at one. It's going to be a really good time. But I agree with you, Brian. Like, it's people getting together, learning from each other. This is a really nice little recruiting-centric community moment.
Yep. And nobody throw any chairs off the balconies.
No, Malin, Morgan Wallen.
No.
Real quick, I do want to give a quick shout out. I've looked at the agenda, and there is a powerhouse speaker that is closing out the conversation, and that's Megan Cantrell. And she is going to be on, I think, the Inspire stage, and she is the last speaker. Stick around for her. Stick around. There are going to be gems throughout the day, but day 2, you want to be there for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Brian. You're such a good guy, looking out for all the folks that are contributing to the conversation. Well, that is all the time that we have for this week. I do want to remind everybody to hit us up on LinkedIn for Purple Acorn. We are trying to get to that 2,000 followers. I think we need like a couple dozen more. So give us the love, and also head over to the Purple Acorn Network to learn all about all the incredible conversations we are driving through our podcast network. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere else you find podcasts. I don't know where else you would go, but anyway, that is the time that we have today. Thank you, Kika, again, for so much of the love and the support you give to the show. Everybody, we will see you next week. Bye. Bye-bye.